Rabbi Boteach, Kvod Harav, what I love about him is not only that he brings remarkable passion to every cause he embraces, but also that he never hesitates from calling us to action. And that is something urgently needed in our time today. I have the great honor of presenting this next award to someone I regard as not only a very, very close friend, but someone who truly has been an inspiration to me in the last year that I've been on the job as United States Special Envoy to fight anti-Semitism globally. Ambassador Ron Dermer has an illustrious record. He was economic envoy to Washington representing the state of Israel. He was senior advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu. His achievements are legion. But what I want to talk about is the character and the passion that he has brought to this job. When Ambassador Michael Oren ended his tenure, a lot of us wondered, well, how can you top that? I mean, my goodness, somebody who brings Americanism and real deep knowledge of America, an eloquent voice, brilliant, articulate, how do you top Michael Oren? And then we got Ron Dermer. And I want you to know that when we look for moral clarity regarding not only the state of Israel, but regarding the Jewish people, we look to Ron Dermer. When you think of the vision that he has brought, not only again to policy regarding the state of Israel, but regarding to what it means to be Jewish, regarding the vision of the Jewish people in the world, we look to Ron Dermer. The collaboration that you've had, Ron, with Natan Sharansky, one of our heroes, one of the heroes of our time, and the way that you and Natan Sharansky have entirely framed major fundamental issues that have changed the way we see Israel in the world today, it is nothing short of remarkable. And as I've said before, I've said it several times and I'll say it again, all of us, as Americans, as Jews, as people who care about the future of the world, find ourselves brimming with pride that the state of Israel, 3,000 years in the making, is represented in the most powerful capital on earth by a voice, by a personality, by a leader as eloquent, as possessed of moral clarity, and as inspirational as you have been. And I am just so grateful that we've become incredibly close friends, that you're my sounding board. We've talked about so many issues. And I know that whatever you do, hopefully you'll stay ambassador. You've been the longest serving ambassador for in 50 years. I want you to double your time here. I want you to stay. But whatever you do, I know that you're going to change the world, and you're going to continue to change the world. And we are all, Ron, in your debt. And thank you for making us all proud and making us all safer. Ambassador Ron Dermer, please.
This is a special award.
Presented to Ambassador Ron Dermer by his friend, yes. Rabbi Shmuley Boteach at the 8th Annual Champion of Jewish Values Awards Gala of the World Value Network in recognition of the, it's a script that's very...
It's Rashi.
It's Rashi. Of the what? Year, of the something year, a representative of Israel to the United States and his devotion to the cause of the Jewish people and the security of Israel.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Okay. I want to thank you for those kind words and for your eloquence. And beyond your eloquence, your passion. You know, it's very rare, you hear somebody speak once and twice and a third time and a fourth time, and each time you hear them, you learn something. And it is tremendous to have your voice, not just in Washington, but going around the world defending the Jewish people, and in defending the Jewish people, also defending the Jewish state. And I thank you for everything that you're doing for that. Speaking of passion, Shmuley's got a little bit of passion. What do you think? A little bit? A little bit. You know him as a whirling dervish, a kind of energizer bunny of the Jewish people. I consider him something of a Where's Waldo in the Jewish world, because every time I go to an event, Shmuley is floating around somewhere. I just got to pick him out of the picture in the crowd. But I know a different side of Shmuley. You got a little sense of it today. Now, I grew up in the same town as Shmuley. He's a few years older, a few inches shorter, and a few years older than I am, the same town in Miami Beach. But we really became very close when I came as a student to Oxford, which is where the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent Shmuley about 25 years ago. And the Shmuley I saw there was a real scholar and somebody who was deeply knowledgeable about the traditions of our people and also the ideas that have animated our people. And Oxford is not a simple place to be in. You got a lot of smart kids, and you got a lot of cynical people there. And it took a uniquely gifted person, I think, to light in them a sense of an appreciation of the values and the ideals of our faith. And he did it to hundreds, thousands of students over the years, and I was one of those students. You know, in life, we have all many influences. I'm blessed to have my mother and father, my greatest, the people who have had the biggest influence on my life. But we're all influenced by people, maybe a handful of people, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30. Shmuley is one of those people in my life, and I want to thank you for everything that you did for me in opening my eyes to the brilliance of our faiths and tradition. And I also want to thank you for being smart enough to marry up, like I did, to Debbie, who is simply the kindest person, as everyone knows here. Another person who's passionate is Judge Janine. And the problem with you, Judge, is you never take a side. Stop sitting on the fence all the time. Every time I turn on the TV, I just can never tell what side you're on. That's the problem. Enough is enough. Take a side. But seriously, I want to thank you for your powerful support and unwavering and unequivocal support for the state of Israel and against anti-Semitism and the enemies of the state of Israel. Ambassador Mosbacher, I want to thank you also for everything you're doing to strengthen ties between the United States and Poland, which is not only an important ally of yours, it's an important ally for us. The ties between Israel and Poland are incredibly important. I understand. And the higher you go up in Israel's decision-making process, the more you understand how vital the friendship and ties are between Israel and Poland. I thank you for everything that you are doing there. I want to congratulate Robert Smith, who I had the honor of meeting for the first time tonight. I have to tell you, Mr. Smith, the highest compliment I think you can pay someone, whether it's in business, in politics, or in sports, is that you make the people around you better. Those are actually the greatest of the greats. And it is hard for me to imagine somebody who did more to make other people generous than you did. And I have a feeling that the impact that you had, you don't know. And my guess is that every couple of days somebody tells you, I decided to give charity because of you. I decided to do this act of kindness because of you. We hear of copycat crimes. You probably generated copycat kindness. And the prophets of our people charge us with being a light unto the nations. Now, I don't know if you've taken one of these DNA tests and whether maybe you got a certain percentage Jewish in you, but if you don't, you're definitely an honorary member of the tribe because you have been a true light unto the nations. I also want to recognize, you also probably set the Guinness Book of World Records for invites for commencement speeches. All right, how many of those come in a day? 3, 4 times? Yeah. I want to congratulate the champ, Evander Holyfield. It is a real pleasure to meet you. Now, when I was in college, I used to go, and we used to pay a lot of money to go watch you fight. I just want to tell you, we could get some of that money back because we were college students and a lot was pay-per-view and I had to see you fight. But here's what always struck me, is for many years, until they realized that they were wrong, everybody would question you. Is he heavy enough? Is he strong enough? Is his reach enough? Does he have a tough enough chin? But one thing nobody ever questioned was your heart. Never. And in fact, the more they saw you fight, the more they realized that that was the thing that separated you from everybody else. And in that, you also can become an honorary member of our people because we like to pride ourselves on having an ability, because of our heart, because of our resolve, because of our spirit, we have faced the longest odds in history. And we came back. And now we're winning. And now actually we're in the arena and not a spectator. We're actually in the fight. And so I want to welcome you as an honorary member of the tribe as well. And thank you for the model that you are. Now finally, I want to say to David, I know that he skipped out. Has David skipped out? He has left the building. So I will speak about David in his absence, and that's probably right because sometimes it's uncomfortable to praise somebody in their absence. The currency of an ambassador, what matters for an ambassador, is do you speak for the President of the United States and do you speak to the President of the United States? David Friedman is by far the most influential ambassador to the state of Israel that America has ever had. It is not even close. He may be one of the most influential American ambassadors anywhere. You'd have to go back to the relationships of presidents to ambassadors and envoys that they sent in different places around the world. But the fact that David is influential doesn't mean that much. The question is, what do you do with your influence? Okay, so he's close to the president. So not only doesn't he doesn't have to make 3 phone calls, which most ambassadors would have to do to speak to a president. The president actually calls him sometimes. Great. The question is, what do you do with all that influence? Did you use it to achieve something? And he has dedicated himself to strengthening this relationship, and he has, as you said, played a historic role. He was critical to the decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He was critical to the decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He was critical to the decision to declare finally and to restore the policy saying that Jews living in Judea, which is where we're from, we're called Jews because we're the people of Judea, that building apartments in Judea is not against international law. And he was critical, as you just spoke about, because of the peace process and that plan that was put forward. And I just want to, before I leave, I just want to say a couple of things about the peace plan that's important, because you asked some very interesting questions. There was an Israeli journalist, a very prominent Israeli journalist, who wrote 20 years ago an article after Ehud Barak had made this sweeping offer to the Palestinians at Camp David. He wrote an article after Arafat rejected that offer and launched a campaign of terrorism against Israel. He said that Barak had created a Copernican revolution because he had finally convinced Israelis that the problem was not that Israel wasn't willing to make compromises. It wasn't about Israeli intransigence. The problem was Palestinian rejectionism. The problem was Palestinian terrorism. And unfortunately, for their sake and for ours, that's been the case for 100 years, that the Palestinians have not recognized that the Jewish people are in the land of Israel, not just by might, but by right. That we are a people of Judea. That this is the land where our patriarchs prayed and our prophets preached and our kings ruled. They see us as foreign colonialists, as if Israel, for the Jewish people, is like India for the British, or Algeria for the French, or Congo for the Belgians. It's not. This is our ancestral homeland. And he said, for a while, Israel had forgotten that, and they thought, no, if only we will be generous, if only we will make a concession, we will get the possibility for peace. And there was this Copernican revolution. The problem with that revolution is it only took place in Israel. It was ignored all over the world. And people all over the world for 20 years have been acting like all we need to do is go back to Camp David. We're another 2 or 3 weeks away. You hear this? Everybody knows what the plan is. Everybody knows what the deal will look like. All this nonsense about, well, Israel can but won't. The Palestinians want to but can't. And then the worst, the most obscene. We just need leaders of courage who are willing to take this step. That's courage? Because it'll get them some good articles in the New York Times, a good editorial? Because the world will applaud them? You know what courage is? Doing something that is unpopular on the international stage and saying no to peace plans that threaten the survival of our country. That's why I'm proud to serve by the Prime Minister's side for so many years, because he had the courage to say no, to say I'm not going to accept the applause of the world and to bring about a plan that's going to endanger the survival of my country. That's what takes courage. And what I see in the peace plan that they have put forward is they have finally created a Copernican revolution for the United States. It is no longer Israel's intransigence. This tells the Palestinians, hey, you want to make peace with us? Here's the number. James Baker famously said, and wrongly said, the former Secretary of State, he said, when Israel's ready to have peace, call me. President Trump, because of David Friedman and Jared Kushner and Avi Berkowitz and Jason Greenblatt and everyone that's involved, has just put a phone down for the Palestinians and said, when you're serious about peace, you call. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the Palestinians can't stop paying people to murder Jews. There's a person here, Sander Gerber, who devoted himself to exposing this. I was just at AIPAC, and I saw at AIPAC the children, the 2 daughters of Dr. Applebaum. And those of you who have been at Shaare Zedek Hospital know that he was in the emergency unit caring for all Israelis, Arabs, Jews, everybody who would go through Shaare Zedek. He was killed in a terrorist attack, a bombing in a restaurant. And that killer, his family is getting paid. I just saw his daughters come out in AIPAC and everybody applauds it. The problem is not that Israel doesn't want peace. In a second we would make peace. The problem is we have on the other side a national movement for 100 years that has been dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel and that has educated their children that that must be their goal, that has paid people as a matter of law, has paid terrorists and their families to incentivize this ghoulish behavior. And we can pretend for another 20 years that this is not the problem. We can pretend, I'm getting off. You need to finish. I have a flight to catch as well. We can pretend for another 20 years. We can live in the world of Ptolemy. We can pretend that the earth is the center of the universe. Or we can move forward. And we can give the Palestinians a path to join us for peace. And if the Palestinians say yes to that plan, they will not be the Palestinians we've seen for the last 100 years. They will have to undergo a remarkable transformation, and Israel is prepared to accept that transformation. But if they don't, we're not simply going to wait in place, wait for the world to continue to gang up on Israel, continue to pressure Israel, continue to pretend that these positions that have been put forward by the international community are positions that Israel can live with, because they can't. We can't. And for that, I am deeply grateful to Ambassador Friedman, to President Trump, and I would encourage everybody here who has issues with that plan to read it, and read it carefully. because it makes clear that Israel is not a colonialist project of the Jewish people. It makes clear that Israel is our ancestral homeland. And I thank Ambassador Friedman for that.
Are you suggesting that Simon Fallick hasn't read the plan yet? Okay. We have, Ambassador Dermer has to go. You now see why he's Israel's outstanding ambassador. But we have a special presentation for you from Kevin Burmeister.
They say that offense is the best defense, and Ron, on Israel, our indigenous rights, you personify that. And in your honor, my wife Beverly and I have decided to sponsor the inaugural Fellowship Award, the Ron Dermer Fellowship Award, to one young man who we have identified who has the capacity, who can rise up, who we can nurture over the next 12 months and more, to perhaps one day rise up and fill those great boots of yours in the capacity that you've run. And his name is Ariel Abagel. So Ariel, I would like you to come up here and...
So Kevin Burmeister was the founding investor in Skype. He's a world-renowned philanthropist, and he decided after meeting Ron that he wanted to endow this, because I helped to train Ron a little bit at Oxford to be a great advocate for Israel, and we hope to do the same with Ariel. This is the inaugural Ambassador Ron Dermer Fellowship, sponsored by the Burmeister family, okay?
Thank you, Ron.